In issue 10, we get to look into what a Myphitic Blight-hauler is, how to build it the most effective way, and painting it, plus learning how to use vehicles in your battles. Stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of my series following the Warhammer 40,000 Conquest subscription. Issue 10, yeah, been waiting for this one, the Myphitic Blight-hauler, or Myphitic Blight-hauler, whichever way you want to say it. I like the sound of Myphitic Blight-hauler, but there you go. Look at that, look how nice that is. The amount of detail on this baby. And it's all push fit as well, so you ain't going to need any glue, which is good because it will allow you to pull bits apart. As long as you follow my guide on how to do push fits properly, it will hold it all together until you finish painting it all. But oh my goodness, I'm definitely can't wait to get that painted up. So enough of the nerdgasm. Big old base as well. Put that to one side and let's have a look what's in the issue. So, first page, the Myphitic Blight-hauler. Get to learn a bit about that and what it's used for, why they're used, and why they're so favoured. And then you got all the information on the weapons, so like multi-melter, which is absolutely dirty, missile launcher, which you just, is fun to use. Gnashing Maw, I mean, it just runs around chewing on things because it's an engine possessed by a demon, for Christ's sake. And Bile Spurt, I mean, if that doesn't sound putrescent, I don't know what does. And then we've got the Blight-hauler war game, more detail. And then we have a battle about the raid of Ralthor Prime. That's a real good read there. I won't spoil it for you. That's why it's so far away, you can't zoom in on this. And then how to build it as well, so I'll go over that. I'll show you the best way to build it without screwing it up and having massive gaps, and at the same time being able to paint all the areas that you need. And then we got the painting bit, so I'll go through this as well, and I'll show you a few little bits that you can actually add that they don't show you here. Just to make it that little bit extra nice. And then we go on to the rules on how to use a vehicle. So this is very interesting as well. So we've got the entire move sequence here, and we get to use the librarian against it, so that's freaking cool. Dealing multiple wounds. So now we're going to learn about D3s, how to actually do them right. So yeah, excessive wounds, how to pass them around. And then we got our replay mission right here. So, 1 Myphitic Blight-hauler, 1 Primaris Librarian, and 3 Reavers. And then you either eliminate the Librarian or eliminate the Blight-hauler, which is great fun. And then we have the replay extra rules. So, Bile Spurt. Why wouldn't you have that to begin with? Not only does it sound disgusting, like just by the name, but the rules are disgusting too. Also, you got your 4 sword rules, and then you have another special rule here, Smite. So that's a great psychic move. Alright, so now it's time to build our Myphitic Blight-hauler. So, get your plastic glue, mile line remover, clippers, and have at it. So follow the guide step by step, make sure that you don't skip ahead any pieces, and do everything well numbered as well. Only clip out the pieces you need for each stage, because you don't want to get any pieces mixed up, like the identical pieces on both sides sort of thing. So do that. Also, make sure you don't clip out these pegs. You need them for everything to stick together, but do trim them slightly. As I always say, give that little trim, and it means that it will fit a lot more snug, so less chance of gaps. And if you ever want to just take parts a way to paint separately, then you will be able to at a later date. So definitely do not glue it, but it should all hold together regardless. So make sure you get the chunky bits off. And then we've got a large bit, what is it, number 1, cool, this bit here. Okay, so flat side against the piece as well. Just be careful as you go around. Like so. And once you got the bits, just make sure that you haven't got huge bits of plastic sticking out from clipping them off. So it makes it easier when you get the mold line remover to them. Alright. I love seeing those little bits fly around. As long as I haven't got a cup of tea waiting for me, then I don't worry too much about those bits flying about. But if I've got a cup of tea nearby, gives a little extra crunch in my tea, so that's always fun. Right, also note, it's very sharp, lots of spiky bits, as you know Chaos is known for, so just be careful, keep in mind that.
So here's what the final product should look like. Now before we paint it, I just want to show you that because of the technique that I used and showed you on how to put it together, you can take it apart as you paint it. But the pieces still hold firmly together when using it. So it's a great way of being able to play and paint while you go on. So in this example, I'm just going to do the front panels just to give you an idea of how it should look like. But carry on doing these techniques and using these paints across the entire model. To start with, we're going to be using Death Guard Green as the base. So make sure that you thin it well, not too much. And then do multiple coats of this, make sure it's nice and thin and even. It will look patchy to start with, don't worry, this color builds up over time. Make sure it is dry before you apply further layers as well, otherwise what will happen is you'll tear the paint underneath and then you'll get an even more patchy. So once all of that is dry, you then use the Bugman's Glow to paint the fleshy parts, so around the eye. What I'm going to do is the little cracks in the armor, I'm going to paint this in there as well, so it looks like the demonic flesh is trying to burst out from the armor. And then once you've done all that, you carry on painting the rest of the fleshy parts, like the underside and the big tail part of it, and around the weapons as well. Again, using thin but even coats around to get the best effect. Okay, so in this next part, we're going to do Abaddon Black instead of the Lead Belcher first. Reason being is because I feel like Abaddon Black makes a nice base colour for the Lead Belcher to go on top, and it gives it a little extra shading as well. So we're going to skip over the Lead Belcher part and do that after we've done the Abaddon Black bits. So you want to do the islands, you want to do the mandibles, do every part that is going to be either Lead Belcher or Abaddon Black in the book as Abaddon Black. Then once that has all been settled and dried, you then go over the areas that were intended to be Lead Belcher with Lead Belcher, and you will notice that there is a nice shading effect that goes on because of the Abaddon Black underneath. Next up is to use Retributive armor to paint in all those details, so all the iconography, the signs, the rims of the armor, wherever you feel like. Let yourself get creative with it, or if you want to follow the book, you can do that as well. So just dab it around. You may need to do 2 layers of this as well, but make sure that you do it nice and evenly. Don't just slop it all on, and you'll get a nice finish. And yeah, that's it. Just carry on doing it across the entire thing. If you do want to wait until the next delivery where you get the larger brush, painting the model will be a lot easier, a lot faster, and you can get a much better effect in a quicker time. So I ran out of memory on the camera, but here are the pictures of the final product. Once the washes have been applied to the gold areas and the silver areas. So just follow the instructions in the book, but you can go a bit crazy if you wish. Applied the washes to the specific areas. I did add a little extra around the rims where the plates and the edges meet, just to give it that little extra shading as well. feel free to do it how you wish.
Alright, so here's the one that I've been looking forward to, and we get to use the Myphitic Blight-hauler, so our first vehicle in the series so far, which is freaking awesome because it's got so much firepower and it introduces some interesting rules as well. So let's just skip right to it. So make sure you got your 3 intercessors and a librarian for the Ultramarines, and the Blight-hauler for this Death Guard player. You can roll off for deployment and do all the deployment as normal, but the Death Guard will always go first and have first turn, so that doesn't matter too much. Now there are some rules you need to know about. So the Blight-hauler can fire all of its weapons, and it can target different units as well with each weapon. This is because it's a vehicle, so it has that. It still has disgustingly resilient as well, like the rest of the Death Guard army. Now the librarian, he knows smite, so check out issue 7 when you got the librarian for the rules on that. And he also wields a force sword, so enemies that are wounded by the force sword have to make a save of a 6 rather than their regular save, which for the Blight-hauler is a 3. Note that it doesn't affect the disgusting resilient save, as this is a special rule. Also, all the Space Marine attacks need a 5+ to wound the Blight-hauler, so it's not impossible for a regular intercessor to hurt this thing. It's just hard. So let's have a look at the rules. So this is pretty cool. So it has ballistic skill 4, weapon skill 4, so it's 50-50 on shooting and hitting. The 3 save and a 5+, that's the disgusting resilient. It has 8 wounds, so you really have to hack at it. Moves 10 inches, so you can outmaneuver your enemy quite easily. Close combat, it has the gnashing maw, so that's 3 attacks, 3+ to wound, and enemies save on a 5+. Each wound will do 1 damage. It's got the multi-melter, so it's this weapon right here. It's 1 shooting attack, wounds on a 2+, because it literally just melts through the enemy, and there are no save, and it does d6 damage. So if you're shooting that at the intercessors, you're going to kill at least 1, maybe even 2 in 1 shot, and the librarian is going to be very hurt. And you got the missile launcher, so attacks, you roll a d6, that's how many attacks it has. Each one wounds on a 5+, and each one does 1 damage. The librarian, 3+ ballistic, 3+ weapon skill. It's going to wound it on a 5 or 3+. I think that's the difference between the Plague Marines and the Poxwalkers. They still got that variation there, but it's already mentioned here that it's going to be a 5+. It's got 4 attacks, 3+ save, 5 wounds, 6-inch move, and you should already know the intercessors by now as well. So let's get to the rules. So the multi-melter wounds Space Marines on a 2+, and they get no armor save, and if it causes a wound, that's d6 for damage. So literally, say you wound on the 2, just right, they get no save, so then you roll a dice, 1. Okay, so you take 1 damage. That's enough to take half a wound off half the allocated wounds for the intercessor, so that's still something. The missile launcher is different. You need to roll that d6, and that's how many attacks you have. Then you roll to wound, so only 1 with wound, and then you get the save. As it's not as powerful as the multi-melter. Note that when it's moving, it moves very fast, 10 inches, boom, but you need to make sure it fits between the scenery pieces. Like, it won't fit through here, this gap's too small, but through here it could. So it can come around here like this, you can go around there, it can even go around the back there, but a little gap like that, it's a no-go. Actually, I don't even think it will fit through here. Let's have a look. Nope, it won't. but you can come through here like so. Okay, so yeah, again, firing weapons, it can fire each weapon at different target, and in close combat it must be within 1 inch of the enemy, and the Blight-hauler can make 3 close combat attacks with its maw. So usually vehicles don't get an attack, but because this is a demonically possessed vehicle, it gets to just munch away on the enemy. So it covers dealing multiple wounds, but I kind of touched on that already. So, so for example, these two were in combat and it made 3 wounds on this unit, and they got to make their saves. And 2 of them failed. Well, then what you'd have to do, allocate that wound to him, and then because he's already wounded, carry on allocating the wound to him until he's removed from play, which 2 is enough to remove him from play. If there were more wounds, then you go on to the next unit whatsoever. If, for example, there was damage done and it was a D3 damage, so you failed the save, say 2 saves were failed, then the person controlling the model attacking would then roll the dice, and say it was a D3 damage, then that would mean that these 2 dice each represent 3 damage. So that's 6 wounds taken off your enemy. So that would wipe out this whole squad because each one only has 2 wounds. Alright, so remember that's always after the save. So you roll to hit, you roll to wound, you roll to save, then you roll the damage if there is multiple damage per dice. Disgustingly resilient, so this is important. If a model with disgustingly resilient roll is hit by an attack that inflicts more than 1 damage, it must roll disgustingly resilient roll for each damage point it suffers. So say the librarian was attacking it, what would then happen is he'd roll to hit, 1 hit, roll to wound, let's say he re-wounded, okay, and it was a D3 attack, right? That would make it save of what was it, 5+, 3+. It failed. Okay, whatever the save is, it failed the save. Now, before it gets to roll the disgusting resilient save, the damage is worked out instead. So the D3 becomes 2. That means that the Blight-hauler has to roll 2 dice for disgustingly resilient, which it would only save 1 and it would take a wound. I hope that's clear. Kind of muddled through that. Okay, so the tutorial replay mission is called Smite the Blight-hauler. They replaced the intercessors with reavers, but you still got your Primaris Librarian and you got your Myphitic Blight-hauler. So the how to win: eliminate the Primaris Librarian, boom, or eliminate the Myphitic Blight-hauler. So here's your hints and tips. The Blight-hauler is armed with powerful weapons. Try and stay out of sight. If the Librarian's Smite ability will be useful, it will be useful taking this beastie out. So use it because it's your ranged weapon of choice. Does more damage than the bolt pistol. And the Blight-hauler is just powerful at range. It can really chomp through a unit in close combat as well, so make full use of it. Remember, it's got 8 wounds, so don't hang about. Get it in combat as soon as you can, because it can shoot in combat as well, right? And while you're in combat, you know, you can do more damage before the enemy gets a chance to shoot at you and then attack you, and there's nowhere for them to hide. Similarly, you want to keep this guy in cover because he's going to be the one being targeted, So only peek out if you know you're going to be safe, or if you have a screen of troops between you two, because remember, only the nearest enemy unit can be targeted. You cannot target the character if he's behind a friendly unit. So in the replay extra rules in this week's issue, they have added an extra rule for the Blight-hauler called Bile Spur. They've also added the rules for Force Sword and for Smite. So let's have a look-see. The Bile Spur is a shooting attack with a 12-inch range. It makes D3 range attacks against a unit. So see how many times you hit it. You roll a dice and half and round up. You should know that by now. You got the chart in the other issue. These attacks wound on a 3+, so there'll be 3. That would only be 1. And the enemy save on a 4, and it deals 1 attack. I would have saved it. So there's the shorthand there. The Force Sword deals D3 damage. With the previous rules, it wounds Plague Marines and the Blight-hauler on a 5+. It wounds Poxwalkers on a 3, and the enemies save on a 6. The updated rules on Smite: on a psychic test result of more than 10, Smite deals D6 mortal wounds instead of D3. It has warp charge of 5 and targets the closest visible enemy unit in 18 inches. So they've added this little extra nugget of goodness. So if you are lucky and you manage to roll a 10 or 11, and you don't roll double sixes, because you don't want to roll double sixes, then yeah, it's really cool. It does a lot more damage. But if you roll the 2 sixes, you're going to end up hurting yourself. So aim high, not that high. And that's that for this week. So sneaky peek, we got the aggressors and the foul blight swarm coming this weekend. I'm going to get those two, plus the new paint, the new brush, and the container with the additional bits and pieces for terrain. So that's me signing off. Please like, share, subscribe, comment below, and just carry on being awesome and watching my videos. It means a hell of a lot to me, and yeah, I'm really enjoying this. So thank you very much. Peace out.